Have you ever brushed off that strange tightness in your chest, or told yourself that the shortness of breath on the stairs was just age catching up with you? What if I told you those little annoyances could be your body's final cry for help before something catastrophic happens? Every 36 seconds in America, someone dies from cardiovascular disease, and the silent culprit behind so many of those deaths is blocked arteries. They don't roar with warning sirens. They whisper. They disguise themselves as fatigue, indigestion, or stress until the moment they strike with devastating force. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and today I want to be brutally honest with you. Most people who die from blocked arteries had warning signs long before their final event. The tragedy is not that these signs don't exist. The tragedy is that they are ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood. That means millions of lives could be saved if only people learned how to recognize these subtle but deadly signals. So here's the promise: in the next few minutes, you're going to discover the 10 critical warning signs of blocked arteries, explained in plain language, backed by world-class research, and illustrated with real stories that will make you think twice about ignoring your body's whispers. Because what you're about to hear could be the difference between catching a problem early or becoming the next heartbreaking statistic. And as we move forward, I want you to keep one thought in mind: the symptoms we're about to uncover don't arrive as random inconveniences. They are a carefully coded language from your body, a desperate attempt to get your attention. Let's start decoding that language right now, beginning with the very first and most common signal your arteries may already be sending. Let's begin with the very first warning sign, and it's one that many people brush off far too easily: chest discomfort. Now, don't imagine the dramatic Hollywood scene of someone clutching their chest and collapsing. In reality, blocked arteries rarely announce themselves that loudly. Instead, the feeling is often subtle, like a heavy weight sitting on your chest or a tight squeeze that comes and goes, especially when you climb stairs or even just feel stressed. Take Robert, a 62-year-old retired carpenter. He thought the dull pressure in his chest was just old age or maybe indigestion. He'd pop an antacid rest for a few minutes and move on with his day. But what Robert didn't realize was that every episode was his heart crying out for oxygen. And one morning, that whisper turned into a scream. He ended up in the ER with a near-fatal heart attack. The science behind it is clear. According to the Mayo Clinic, angina occurs when plaque narrows your coronary arteries, creating a bottleneck. When your heart demands more oxygen, say during physical activity, those narrowed vessels can't keep up. The discomfort doesn't always stay in the chest either. It can radiate like misfired electrical signals down your left arm, up into your jaw, or even into your back and stomach. That's why so many people mistake it for muscle pain, dental issues, or simple fatigue. But make no mistake, this is your heart sending a red alert message. If you ever feel recurring pressure, squeezing, or unexplained tightness in your chest, do not dismiss it. Every episode of angina is like a ticking clock, pushing you closer to a full-blown heart attack. Recognizing it early could be the difference between life and death. But only knowing about chest discomfort isn't enough, because blocked arteries have more than one disguise. Sometimes the danger doesn't show up in your chest at all, it steals your breath away. And that's exactly what you'll discover in the next warning sign. If chest discomfort is your heart's whisper for help, then unexplained shortness of breath is the moment it starts shouting. Imagine this: you're walking across the room or climbing just a few steps, and suddenly you feel like you've run a marathon. You pause, take a deep breath, but the air never feels like it's enough. Take Linda, a 58-year-old grandmother from Ohio. She loved chasing her grandkids in the yard, but lately even tying her shoes left her winded. She thought maybe it was just getting older or being a little out of shape. But what she didn't know was that blocked arteries had weakened her heart so much it could no longer pump blood efficiently. Within weeks, Linda was diagnosed with heart failure, something that could have been slowed or even prevented if she had recognized the early warning signs. The science is straightforward but terrifying. When plaque clogs your arteries, blood flow slows down. Your heart struggles to deliver oxygen to your tissues, and your body compensates by making you breathe faster and harder, like trying to water a garden with a kinked hose. According to research from the Mayo Clinic, this breathlessness, called dyspnea, often appears years before a major cardiac event, and women are especially at risk. In fact, studies show women are more likely to experience shortness of breath instead of the classic chest pain men report. That's why it's so often overlooked. If you notice yourself running out of breath during simple daily activities, walking, talking, or even getting dressed, don't just blame it on age or stress. This is your body waving a red flag. Catching it early could give your heart the second chance it desperately needs. But only paying attention to your breath won't save you, because when oxygen supply to the brain falters, your body sends out a far scarier signal. And that's when dizziness, lightheadedness, and sudden nausea strike the next warning sign you need to know. Now, if shortness of breath feels like your body is begging for air dizziness, and sudden nausea are its way of pulling the emergency brake, picture this: you stand up from your chair, the room spins, your stomach lurches, and you have to grab onto something just to steady yourself. Most people dismiss it as dehydration, low blood sugar, or even stress. But when it happens repeatedly, it could be your arteries quietly cutting off blood flow to your brain. Let's look at John, a 64-year-old former truck driver. He had always been tough, rarely complaining about pain. But one morning while fueling his truck, he suddenly felt lightheaded and nauseous, nearly collapsing right on the spot. The doctors later discovered severe blockages in his coronary arteries. What John thought was just skipping breakfast turned out to be a ticking time bomb in his circulatory system. Here's the science behind it. When your arteries narrow, your heart can't pump enough blood to maintain stable pressure. That means less oxygen-rich blood reaches your brain and digestive system. According to UT Southwestern Medical Center, dizziness, lightheadedness, and nausea often cluster together during cardiac events because they share this exact mechanism: reduced cardiac output from blocked arteries. It's your body desperately trying to prioritize blood flow, sending less to non-essential areas like digestion in order to keep your heart and brain alive. So if you suddenly feel the room spinning or nausea that doesn't make sense, don't just brush it off. These are not random inconveniences. They can be your body's last attempt to warn you before a major cardiac event. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. Sometimes your body won't just make you dizzy. It will push you into a cold sweat, drain your energy, and leave you exhausted in ways rest can't fix. And that's the next warning sign you can't afford to miss. If dizziness and nausea feel like your body slamming the brakes, then overwhelming fatigue and sudden cold sweats are like your engine stalling in the middle of the highway. This isn't the ordinary tiredness you feel after a long day or a sleepless night. This is exhaustion that clings to you no matter how much you rest, paired with a clammy cold sweat that comes out of nowhere. Think about Maria, a 55-year-old teacher. For weeks, she kept telling herself she was just overworked. She'd collapse into bed by 8 p.m., wake up, still tired, and then out of the blue start breaking into cold sweats during simple tasks like cooking dinner. Her doctors later revealed advanced coronary blockages. Those sweats weren't from the heat of the kitchen. They were from her body triggering a stress response, desperately trying to keep blood flowing to her vital organs. The science explains it clearly. When arteries are clogged, your heart has to beat faster and harder to push blood through narrowed passages. Over time, that relentless workload drains the heart muscle itself, spreading exhaustion through your entire body. Cold sweats occur when the stress hormones surge, activating your body's emergency systems. According to cardiovascular research, women are especially prone to these silent symptoms, often mistaking them for menopause anxiety or just plain fatigue. That's why so many heart attacks in women come as a complete shock. So if you ever find yourself feeling bone-deep exhaustion that no nap can fix, or breaking into an icy sweat while doing something ordinary, don't write it off. It could be one of the most overlooked cries for help your heart will ever give. But here's the twist: sometimes your heart doesn't just exhaust you, it sends its pain outward, radiating to parts of your body you'd never expect. And that's exactly what the next warning sign is all about. When your heart struggles, it doesn't always keep the pain locked inside your chest. Sometimes it leaks out, radiating like wildfire into your shoulders, arms, back, neck, even your jaw or stomach. And that's what makes this warning sign so dangerously misleading. People chase the wrong answers, visiting a dentist for jaw pain, a chiropractor for back pain, or reaching for antacids when the real problem is their arteries. Consider James, a 60-year-old accountant. He started feeling a dull ache in his left arm and thought it was just from typing too much. Then came the pressure in his jaw, which he blamed on dental issues. By the time he finally went to the hospital, doctors found his coronary arteries were critically blocked. That toothache was really his heart sounding the alarm. The science here is fascinating and frightening. The heart shares nerve pathways with multiple areas of the body. That's why angina pain can misfire showing up in your arms, jaw, or even upper abdomen. According to the Mayo Clinic, left arm pain is a classic red flag for cardiac events, but pain can appear on either side. Back pain between the shoulder blades, often dismissed as muscle strain, has also been linked to heart disease. The danger is in the disguise because when the pain subsides with rest, people assume it's nothing serious when in fact it's your heart begging for oxygen. So if you feel unexplained pain in these areas, especially when it comes with exertion and fades with rest, don't ignore it. It's not just soreness, it could be your body's way of pointing directly to your heart. But here's the chilling reality. When blocked arteries affect your legs, the warning signs aren't subtle at all. They hit you with cramping and pain every time you walk, forcing you to stop in your tracks. And that is the next signal you need to know. If chest pain is easy to mistake for indigestion, then leg pain during walking is even easier to dismiss as just getting older. But here's the truth: when your legs cramp up after just a short walk and the pain eases when you stop, that's not normal aging. It's a flashing red signal called peripheral artery disease. Picture Thomas, a 67-year-old veteran. He loved walking his dog every morning, but lately, after only a block or two, his calves would tighten with a deep burning ache. He'd stop, wait a minute, and the pain would fade. He brushed it off thinking, maybe I'm just out of shape. Weeks later, his doctor told him the reality: the arteries in his legs were so clogged with plaque that his muscles were literally starving for oxygen every time he moved. The science behind this is crystal clear. When arteries in the legs are narrowed, they can supply enough blood at rest but fail during activity. Muscles demand oxygen, and when they don't get it, they cramp and ache. According to the Cleveland Clinic, peripheral artery disease affects more than 200 million people worldwide, and often travels hand in hand with blockages in the heart and brain. That means if your legs are warning you, chances are your heart and brain are at risk too. So if your legs ache or cramp reliably after walking a certain distance, don't chalk it up to bad shoes or weak muscles. This pattern is distinct, predictable, and dangerous, and it should never be ignored. But here's where things get even more alarming: when blood flow to your legs and feet is severely cut off. The warning signs don't just hurt, they become visible. Non-healing sores, icy cold feet, and skin color changes could be the next clue your arteries are in serious trouble. When clogged arteries advance, the warnings move from hidden discomforts to visible red flags. Imagine looking down at your feet and noticing sores that refuse to heal, toes that feel icy cold, even under a blanket, or skin that shifts from pale to bluish, almost shiny. These are not cosmetic issues. These are late-stage signals that your blood flow has been critically compromised. Consider Evelyn, a 70-year-old grandmother from Texas. She developed a small blister on her ankle after wearing new shoes. Weeks passed, and instead of healing, the wound grew worse, turning into a painful sore. Her feet often felt colder than the rest of her body, and her daughter noticed a bluish tint to her toes. When Evelyn finally went to the doctor, she learned that severe blockages in her leg arteries were starving her tissues of oxygen, putting her at risk of losing her limb. The science confirms it. Non-healing ulcers occur because blocked arteries can't deliver the oxygen, and nutrients tissues need to repair themselves. Coldness happens when blood simply cannot reach the extremities, and color changes reflect uneven or inadequate circulation. According to the Cleveland Clinic, one foot feeling colder than the other is a particularly alarming sign of significant arterial blockage. Even hair loss on the legs or feet can signal the same circulation problem. So don't ignore wounds that linger for weeks, feet that feel like ice, or skin that shifts in unnatural shades. These are your body's way of shouting that circulation is breaking down and time is running short. But here's something most men don't expect. Blocked arteries don't just rob your legs and feet of blood flow. They can also affect one of the most private parts of life. And that's why erectile dysfunction is often an early and overlooked signal of cardiovascular disease. Few men want to talk about it, but erectile dysfunction is often one of the very first warning signs of clogged arteries. Why? Because the blood vessels in the penis are smaller than those in the heart or brain, so they clog earlier. That means ED isn't just a bedroom issue, it can be the body's earliest alarm bell for cardiovascular disease. Take Michael, a 52-year-old manager. He was embarrassed that intimacy with his wife wasn't the same, and he blamed stress from work. But when he finally saw his doctor, the truth stunned him. Tests revealed significant plaque buildup in his arteries. The problem wasn't psychological, it was vascular. And within 2 years, Michael had a mild heart attack that could have been prevented had he recognized ED as a circulation problem. The science backs this up. Research from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine shows men with erectile dysfunction have significantly higher rates of heart attack, stroke, and peripheral artery disease. It's not because the penis is weaker, but because its arteries are so narrow that even small amounts of plaque restrict blood flow. That means if ED appears without a clear psychological cause, especially in men over 40, it should be taken seriously as a cardiovascular warning. So men, don't be ashamed to bring this up with your doctor. It may feel uncomfortable, but addressing it could save not only your confidence, it could save your life. And here's the shocking part. Clogged arteries don't just show up in private moments. They can trigger sudden stroke-like symptoms that vanish just as quickly, tricking people into thinking nothing's wrong. That's the next warning sign you need to understand. Sometimes clogged arteries don't just whisper, they hijack your brain for a few terrifying minutes. A transient ischemic attack, or TIA, is often called a mini-stroke. The symptoms feel exactly like a stroke: sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body, facial drooping, slurred speech, vision suddenly going dark as if a curtain just dropped across your eye. Then just as quickly, it all disappears. And that's what makes TIAs so dangerous. People convince themselves it wasn't serious because the symptoms fade. Meet Harold, a 66-year-old retired firefighter. One afternoon, while talking with his neighbor, his words started slurring, his right arm went weak, and he couldn't see out of his left eye. Within 20 minutes, everything returned to normal. He brushed it off, refusing to go to the hospital. 2 months later, Harold suffered a massive stroke that left him partially paralyzed. Doctors later confirmed the first episode was a TIA, a red alert warning he ignored. The science here is chilling. TIAs happen when arteries carrying blood to the brain are narrowed or clogged, cutting off oxygen for a short time. According to UT Southwestern Medical Center, about 1 in 3 people who experience a TIA will go on to have a full-blown stroke, often within the first year. That means every single TIA should be treated as a medical emergency, no matter how fast the symptoms vanish. So if you or someone around you ever experiences sudden weakness, slurred speech, or vision changes, don't wait to see if it passes. Get help immediately. That mini-stroke is often just the rehearsal for a much bigger life-threatening event. And here's the sobering truth: while TIAs warn of a coming stroke, there's an even more urgent situation where arteries slam shut completely. When that happens, the signs aren't subtle, they arrive all at once, and it becomes a race against time to save your limb or even your life. That's the final and most severe warning sign you must know. If the earlier signs are your body's whispers and shouts, then this one is the full-blown alarm bell. Acute limb ischemia happens when an artery in your arm or leg suddenly slams shut, cutting off blood flow completely. Doctors remember it by the 6 Ps: pain pallor, pulselessness, paresthesia, paralysis, and poikilothermia. For you, it means pain so sharp and relentless, it feels like fire burning deep inside your limb. The skin turns pale and waxy pulses vanish, tingling spreads, movement slips away, and the limb grows ice cold. Think about Daniel, a 70-year-old farmer. One morning he woke with crushing pain in his right leg. Within hours it was pale, numb, and stiff. By the time he reached the hospital, doctors told him bluntly, minutes mattered. Without immediate surgery, he would lose the leg and possibly his life. Daniel survived, but only because his wife recognized the urgency and called for help right away. Many others aren't so lucky. The science is harsh. When tissues are deprived of blood, the clock starts ticking. Muscles and nerves can survive only a few hours before permanent damage sets in. That's why vascular surgeons call this condition a true emergency. According to research published in Vascular Medicine, delays of even 6 hours can mean the difference between saving a limb or facing amputation. So if you or anyone near you develops sudden severe limb pain with these symptoms, it's not time to wait and see. It's time to call for help immediately. Because in this situation, every single minute counts. And here's the bigger picture: from chest discomfort to cold sweats, from shortness of breath to the 6 Ps. These warning signs are not random. They're your body's alarm system, screaming for you to take action before it's too late. But knowing the signs is only half the battle. What you do with that knowledge could determine the rest of your life. Taking care of your arteries isn't just about avoiding a heart attack or stroke. It's about protecting your energy, your independence, and the precious time you have with the people you love. If you've recognized even one of these warning signs in yourself, don't ignore it. Talk to your doctor, take action, and give your body the care it's asking for. I encourage you to save this video so you can revisit these life-saving reminders anytime, and subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss the latest medical insights to protect your health. Remember, blocked arteries develop silently, but they can be stopped and even reversed when caught early. You have the power to change your story, and every choice you make today is a step toward a stronger, healthier tomorrow.